As the war for the Omniverse rages on, will a once fallen hero be able to redeem himself on the battlefield? Well then, let's hop into the pages of Dark Knight's Death Metal: The Secret Origin issue number 1 and find out together, shall we? So then, this very special and very unexpected Death Metal one-shot comes to us courtesy of Scott Snyder, the architect of Death Metal, but also from Jeff Johns of all people. The story itself is focused on Superboy Prime, the Clark Kent from a world that feels a hell of a lot like ours, right down to real-life comic books. We see Clark getting hassled by some bullies at the local drugstore. Yes, this was that far back that comics were actually sold in drugstores before he's eventually saved by the owner's daughter, a nice girl named Lori. Get it? Lori as in old Superman's mermaid girlfriend from back in the day? Needless to say, nerdy Clark ends up falling totally head over heels for Lori, and the two become inseparable not long after. She sees the good in him, they love and support each other, and before you know it, they're dating and even attending an awesome beach Halloween party. She's dressed like a mermaid, and you bet he's dressed like Superman. The rest of the story should also be pretty familiar to longtime comic book readers too. Superboy Prime tries his hardest to fly, only to fall flat ass on his face. But when he ends up trying again later that night, not only does he fly, but he ends up going into space and meeting the other Superman, becoming aware of the multiverse for the first time. That was then though, and this is now. Granted, now multiple crises later, and the once hopeful and good-hearted Clark Kent Superboy is now the hardened and evil Superboy Prime. And because Superboy Prime is the most meta self-referencing Superman of them all, he talks about how lame this death metal event is and how this evil poser Batman is just trying to do what a dozen different comic villains, himself included, have tried to do before, and that is reshape the multiverse in their image, and that he's almost certainly bound to fail. Superboy Prime also wonders why he's even bothering to help the rest of the superhero community when they pretty much hate him regardless of what universe and timeline they're in. The only one who even kinda looks in his direction is Crypto the Superdog. Superboy Prime goes on a whole spiel about how he read Crypto's first issue and he never liked the idea of a dog with a cape, but you know he doesn't actually mean that. In fact, hey, have you ever heard of the old trope, the pet the dog moment, when a seemingly evil character shows that they might not be all bad because they showed compassion for an animal? Well, guess what? That's basically this whole story. Superboy Prime joins the other super people in battling a group of evil supermen created on Earth by the Batman Who Laughs. One particularly nasty customer, a high priest of Rao from a dark alternate Earth, really goes in on Superboy Prime, saying that he's a joke, a failure, known for a famous temper tantrum, and disappearing almost as quickly as he appeared. Oh geez, this high priest Superman sounds a lot like comic fans on the internet, doesn't he? Superboy Prime won't be insulted like this though, and begins beating the crap out of this evil Superman. However, when he does, something rather interesting happens. Every time he hits him, he gets glimpses of the world this guy is from and the life that he led. This gives Superboy Prime an idea. This gives the Superboy Prime a terrible, awful idea. And that is, if the Batman Who Laughs, the Darkest Knight, has the power to create 52 new Earths, then maybe he could get his old Earth back if he took that power for himself. With this plan in hand, Superboy Prime leaves the battlefield to have a one-on-one confrontation with the Batman Who Laughs, who is definitely feeling himself right now, what with the defeat of Perpetua not long before this. When Superboy Prime does goad the Darkest Knight into a fight, he opens up with that oh-so-classic villain speech of, "We're not so different, you and I," only Superboy Prime feels he's very different from the Batman Who Laughs. Superboy Prime says that despite how things may have ended up for him at the end of the day, his motivations were pure. He wanted to remake his world because he thought it was the right thing to do, while the Darkest Knight wants to destroy and rebuild because he's evil, and this is just kinda how he gets off. Superboy Prime actually does a pretty solid job keeping up with the Darkest Knight punch for punch. And for a second there, it actually looks like he might be able to kill him and take his power for himself, but eventually the truth starts seeping into his brain, and that is, even if he was able to use this power to recreate his Earth, it wouldn't really be his Earth, it really wouldn't be his Lori, and perhaps the best thing to do is to move on from the past. But before he does though, Superboy Prime does choose to actually hit the Batman who laughs hard enough that all the other evil 52 Earths end up disappearing, meaning the good guys may actually have more of a chance now. The backlash of this much power though ends up exploding in Superboy Prime's face and seemingly killing him. He did all this good right here at the end, sacrificed himself, but no one but Crypto the Superdog will ever know. But wait, maybe he didn't really die, because we check on in with another Clark Kent on another Earth, only this one looks exactly like our Earth in the current year because he's reading a Superman comic on a Tuesday. In fact, he's reading death metal right now and says, you know what, I've had enough crises, I don't think I care how this story ends, let's me and my girlfriend go for a walk, and oh look, we have a dog too. And as the comic comes to a close, this new but familiar Clark Kent on a new but familiar planet ends up exhibiting amazing super strength. And so that was Dark Knight's Death Metal The Secret Origin issue number 1, and you know what, I swear, just as I'm about to wash my hands of death metal and all the different tie-ins, Johns and Snyder end up turning in something admittedly kind of interesting here. It's clear from reading Johns' Shazam run that he had a lot of ideas that he wanted to play around with when it came to Superboy Prime, but never got the chance. This seemed to also include kinda redeeming the character, or at least trying to make him a little bit more respectable than the whiny sociopath entitled fanboy he was in his original appearance. I don't know if any of that was particularly necessary in and of itself, and it certainly didn't need a story like Death Metal to tell this story, but for what it's worth, I did actually find it pretty enjoyable. For a story like Death Metal that's trying so hard to be metatextual and take place on multiple layers, having a character like Superboy Prime basically poke holes in the whole thing from beginning to end is definitely something I enjoy. Heck, I dare say having an ending where your main character basically says, you know what, you don't have to keep reading this event, go outside. I would love to, but unfortunately my city's in lockdown. Oops. For what it's worth, this is actually a fairly interesting little one-shot, and I get the feeling if you're a longtime Superman fan with a love of Superman continuity, you're gonna find something to enjoy in this one, which is why I ultimately give it an 8 out of 10.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, you know, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.